Good evening and welcome to the second round of the Excite Virtual Motorsports Formula Masters. My name is Sebastian Gerd and I will be your host tonight for a hopefully very interesting race here on the Blackwood GP. It's a fictional racetrack from, you can see the more like the commercial right in front of us from the simulation Live for Speed. So it's been transformed for Assetto Corsa, so the drivers can use it in this simulation, and we are racing on the normal version of this track. Maybe you remember the Formula 3 championship from this summer, and they used the reverse version of this track, and now they are driving in the proper direction. So it's a counterclockwise, no, it's a clockwise racetrack. The reverse version is counterclockwise. So more right turns than left turns, and luckily we have some drivers here with us that first said they won't participate anymore. It's like Mark Harris, because Mark Harris, for example, had a very rough start in the season, which ended in a crash in Mugello, so no points for him in round number 1, and he was close to giving up already. He said, I'm very quick in the qualification, but I just can't keep it up in the race. But obviously some of the other drivers convinced him to stay in the championship and try his best, because we still have 5 rounds to go, including this one. And we're currently on this very long, it's more or less back straight of this track, fastest part on Blackwood GP, 2.1 miles long, so very short. So the lap times are a bit longer, a bit more than 1 minute. 30 lap race, so it won't be very long tonight. We will have this 50-minute qualification, which is already underway, and about half an hour race. So that's it. Oh, nice. Darren Boulton now on the server, and we see Mark Harris. Yeah, try to set the pole, but Steve Proudly is quicker. Set up a 1:02.993, and that's already very quick. But just let's take a short break and take a look on the current standings, which isn't so hard to grasp, because if you look at the first stream of the Formula Masters from Mugello, Mark Heyman, who won the race with a huge distance to his following drivers, he got his first 50 points in the season. Then Darren Boulton with second place, 45 points. Gavin Utley in third, 40 points, and then it's going down with 2 points difference to Chris Wilson. Neil McMath, one of the newer drivers here in this at Excite Virtual Motorsports. In fifth, then Darius Seabright, Derek Robb, Chris Bourne, Matt Powney, Mike Tanti, Martin Ash, Kieran Mallock, and Mark Harris, Steve Proudly, and John McConville. They got also points, but they didn't finish their race. Steve Proudly, who led the race for some time in Mugello, had some issues with his connection and his PC and dropped out, so I think he will fight for the lead tonight. But this won't work out if he makes mistakes like that, sliding out of this right-hander after the long back straight. So no new fastest lap for Steve Proudly, who's currently in third. Andrew Banfield, first time we're seeing him in the Formula Masters, and already very quick in second place currently, but we're still missing some of the drivers. Very nice to see that Rick Fowler is back, who had heart surgery. So great to see he's hopefully back in full health, and it looks like because he's able to do some racing tonight. So great to see Rick Fowler back on track and off track, but just for a short moment. But not in a very distinctive car anymore. It's Chris Bourne actually who took this from him with a very distinctive color on his car. The pink and green car, we remember, maybe you remember the Formula 3 Championship where Rick Fowler was driving a completely purple colored car. Easy to notice in the field. It's not the same with his car now, which is white colored, if I'm not mistaken. McMath on 4th, just parked his car somewhere alongside the track. Mark Heyman, winner of the Mugello race, in 5th. There may be some information for all of you viewers who didn't see the first round. The drivers are allowed to do some changes to their car setup, so that's one of the big differences to the Formula 3 Championship. Then there's only one race, 30 laps, and they have to do a mandatory pit stop with two different set of tires. So maybe they will take the soft tires first and then the medium or hard ones, or the other way around. I got the information that the soft tires won't stand for half of a race. So after 11 or 12 laps they are done. And then the drivers have to switch to the harder tires. They are not allowed to use the same type of tire compound twice. So that's another part of strategy the drivers have to consider. Darren Booton, run off the track. I think there was a hairpin of this 2.1 mile track. They're using the chicane, so there's also a GP version without the chicane, but I think it's very important to have that one in the track because it's a very distinctive part, and it could be one of those turns or parts of a track that can decide who's fast and who's not. But they are very, very quick, down to Darren Booton within 9/10 of a second. So hopefully we will see some very close racing action tonight. Talking about Boulton. No, that's not Boulton. Oh, who's the guy? Hind Harris. That's Mark Harris. So it's the black and yellow car. I'm still not entirely used to all the colors on these cars, because they did a lot of changes to them actually. So not like copy and paste from the Formula 3 Championship. They took out their all the colors from Photoshop and did some new skins for their cars. While Steve Proudly takes the pole 6 minutes before the end of this qualifying. One and a half tenths of a second ahead of Mark Heyman, and Steve Proudly again quicker in the first sector, almost 1/10 of a second faster. So maybe he actually can break this 1 minute and 2 second mark. I lost some time in the second sector, and now he's passing one of the other drivers. I'm not sure that's John Dowling, also a new driver to the Formula Masters. I think it's been Martin Ash. He proudly passed, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why Steve Proudly couldn't improve his lap time. Martin Ash in 15th. Way behind the rest of the field, but I think he just couldn't figure out a proper racing line by now. He also raced in the Formula 3 Championship race when they used the Blackwood GP track in reverse. But this is a whole different thing. You have to take all of the turns a lot different than the other way around. You should try it sometimes, taking a very well-known racetrack you have maybe raced on for several times, and then just try to, yeah, of course not in a race, but in a testing session, just turn around and try to race maybe Monza or Imola the other way around. You will notice that you have no idea how to brake into these turns. So actually no advantage for the drivers that raced on the Blackwood GP reverse version. They just know, okay, there are these turns, but I have no idea when to brake or when to turn. While someone set up a lot of smoke on this long back straight. Parked his car and went back into the pits. Mike Tanti parked his car alongside the track, or probably spun out. Oh, and there's Rick Fowler doing the same. Mike Tanti just got new pedals for his rig at home. He has his racing seat, his wheel, and now he has some new pedals, and he's hoping for a good start because he's very, very happy about the clutch pedal, which works very fine for him. So he's hoping for a very good start. Yeah, maybe someone should tell him that it's not all about the start in these races. Steve Proudly stopped somewhere off the track. Mark Harris in second. And it's Neil McMath by now in third. Andrew Banfield, who wasn't with us in the opening round in Mugello, in fourth. And Neil McMath getting quicker and quicker, lap by lap, now in second, 22 thousandths of a second behind Steve Proudly. But now Neil McMath in the pits. And he would have to get out for another timed lap right now, otherwise he won't have any more chances to catch up with Steve Proudly and maybe take the pole. And he's waiting in the pits, so I don't think anything will happen. Mark Harris in the pits. Andrew Banfield as well. Darren Booten still out in fifth. He made it up to second in race in the opening round. There's Seawright parking his car somewhere. Now he is in the pits. Neil McMath out again, as well as Mark Harris, so they're all giving it a last shot for maybe taking the pole. Mark Heyman back on the server, great to see. Oh, Darren Booten with a lot of understeer. I don't think this will help him getting a better lap time. And let's just use this last lap for Darren Booten to take a short look on this track. This is the hairpin coming up for the chicane I mentioned earlier. Very tough one to drive, and then it's putting the hammer down for the very, very long back straight. You can see the junction to the right for the shorter versions of this track, and then hard on the brakes into this long right-hander. Sharp right. And over the crest into almost 180 degrees right turn. There's the pit lane entry, and then it's the left and right uphill over the start and finish line. Darren Boulton with an improvement. No, he stays in 6th, and now he stopped his car. So this qualifying is over for Darren Boulton, and there are not many drivers left that are still trying to improve their lap times. Chris Bourne also with a lot of understeer before the last chicane, the uphill left and right. Steve Proudly stopped his car, and Chris Bourne stays in 9th position. Gavin Utley still going. Mark Harris obviously stopped his car. So Gavin Utley, the last one, maybe able to set a lap time. No, that's been it. So Steve Proudly takes the pole for this race tonight. Not much time for the drivers. There's no warm-up in Assetto Corsa. We are getting into the race session immediately. But I think we have about like 5 minutes time until we really start, because of course there should be a few minutes for the drivers who just got quite exhausted from the qualifying. We're really hard concentrating on every inch of the track to get the best lap time as possible. So we just get something to drink, something to eat. Well, it's not that much. It's actually just 1 minute. So we will be racing very soon. Try to get a better picture of the cars. It's a bit sorry for flickering through all of this. Not much of a chance to do that. And of course, definitely it's Steve Proudly on pole ahead of Neil McMath. Mark Heyman in 3rd, then it's Mark Harris in 4th. Andrew Banfield from 5th, Darren Boulton 6th, Kevin Utley from 7th, Matt Powney from 8th, Chris Bourne 9th, Darius Seafright from 10th. And the lights are on, and when they're off, we are racing here on Blackwood GP for the Excite Virtual Motorsports Formula Masters. We are off, and who gets the best start? Gavin Utley taking it back, Proudly in front, and they're the first attacks. Oh, Neil McMath taking a look on the inside, but stays behind Mark Harris. They're all getting through the chicane. Oh, Chris Bourne with an attack by Darius Seafright, but he stays in 10th, and there is Powney up in 6th already, battling Utley. Oh, and some very strange jumping by the car of Andrew Banfield, the black and red car. Neil McMath with the attack in the long right-hander after the back straight, but Steve Proudly takes the better line on the inside and stays ahead of Neil McMath. Mark Heyman still in 3rd, then it's Matt Powney now up to 4th ahead of Darren Boulton. Andrew Banfield dropping down more and more in the field. I think he noticed that he has some connection issues. Car was jumping back and forth and left and right on the track, but still going. Oh, and Chris Bourne is off the track, as well as Nick Curry. Oh, slight mistake by rejoining on the track by Chris Bourne. Picked up the curb a bit too hard and dropped down to 16th. So Chris Bourne is more or less out of the race. Darius Seafright as well, down to 15th. And Rick Fowler, who's back after a long break, now in 9th, battling Derek Robb. While Martin Ash drops down to 12th position. John Dowling takes 11th. Now the attack by Derek Robb in the long right-hander, locking up the right front tire. That's what you usually see when you're hard under braking with these cars. They have no traction control, no ABS. So it's all down to the driver. It's easy to make a mistake. And Rick Fowler getting under pressure by the new joined John Dowling. Oh, slight mistake by Fowler, and now John Dowling is taking a look on the left, on the right. No, stays behind. Knows there's still enough time for him to make a pass against Rick Fowler, taking 10th position. Derek Robb hard on the brakes again. Shouldn't do this too often, otherwise he will get a flat spot on the tires, and then it's very hard to steer these cars. Nick Curry dropping back to 14th after Mark Harris taking 30th position. Curry again in trouble. There's Steve Wright now in front of him, and there's John Dowling now attacking Rick Fowler on the inside. Yeah, that's the usually overtaking spot after the long back straight. Out of the slipstream, trying to make a move on Rick Fowler again with some problems. Still relearning the ropes here in the Formula Masters by Exile Virtual Motorsports. Back to the lead. Neil McMath still chasing Steve Proudly. Just set the fastest lap time in the race. Well, let's just take a short look on the tire compounds the guys are using. So Proudly is on soft, most of them are on soft. Derek Robb on medium. Oh, Rick Fowler on super soft. That is probably not the best idea. So it looks like most of the drivers are on soft tires. So they will come into the pits after probably 11 or 12 laps. Maybe earlier. Oh, and Andrew Banfield in trouble. Don't know if someone hit him or he just outbrake himself after the long back straight. Now followed by Rick Fowler. But I think Rick Fowler will be in the pits very soon. And there again, Andrew Banfield with some slight connection issues. Martin Ash in 12th, chased by Mark Harris. Harris, I'm sorry we missed that. He started from 4th, but he dropped down to 12th. So something that I didn't pick up in the cameras. So same trouble again as in Mugello, where he didn't finish the race after several slight mistakes and accidents. No idea what happened this time. He's battling Rick Fowler. Rick Fowler staying on the inside, on the outside. Mark Harris taking the inside line and taking 11th position. Now trying to close the gap to Andrew Banfield. Proudly still in the lead, and now he has more than 2 seconds. Now he's more than 2 seconds ahead of Neil McMath. So something must have happened to McMath, because now he's chased by Mark Heyman. Darren Boulton in 4th. Doing a very, very good job this season so far. He wasn't the quickest driver in the Formula 3 Championship, these Formula Masters cars, and probably the fact that he can change something in the setup shows that he actually can be very quick. Let's take a look on the fight for second position. Mark Heyman after or behind Neil McMath. Heyman, who won the opening round in Mugello, currently in 3rd. So we all know he can be very quick, but no way for him to make a move against Neil McMath so far. And that's the best that can happen to Steve Proudly in front. If these two guys start battling, they will lose a lot more time, and the gap will widen to Steve Proudly. Hopefully this time Steve Proudly won't have any technical issues, because he also was looking for a victory in Mugello when suddenly everything on his PC broke down. Already very big gap between Darren Booten and Matt Powney. Talking about 5 seconds. And Booten is closing in. Still in fourth. I have to say I'm not usually that much of a fan of these open wheel cars, but the sound of these cars here in the Formula Masters, they are just awesome. This is just some, really, this is not noise, this is music. Creates a very, very beautiful atmosphere of racing. Well, now Heyman is sorting it out behind Neil McMath. Losing some time here in third position, while Neil McMath tries to get closer to Steve Proudly again. We have Nick Curry in the pits, and we just not have him in the pits. He parked his car, obviously. Yeah, he's on the paddock side, so not on the other side of the building. While Mark Harris again in trouble. Oh, he did a lot of fighting to get back into the top 10, and now he spun out right before the final corner. Dropped down to 12th again, and there's Martin Ash trying to make a move. He's a lot quicker than Mark Harris, but Mark Harris defending on the inside in the first corner in the hairpin, and he stays in 12th, but huge gap now to Darius Seabright. 5.5 seconds. While we have an overtake by Derek Rupp against John Dowling. Great fighting between these two guys, and Steve Proudly sets the new fastest race lap. 1:02.888. Holy moly, that's very, very quick after 10 laps on soft tires. So maybe these guys can stay out longer than expected. Of course, I'm checking the YouTube chat as always, so if there are any questions or any informations, or if there is some trouble with the stream, just yeah, write it down in the chat. I will take a look from time to time, and of course, if there's something that needs to be fixed, I will try my best. Or if there are some questions about the series and Derek Rupp, the mistake after the long right hand, after the long back straight, and he drops down to 11th. Where is Mark Harris? He had another problem because now Seabright is far away from him. Derek Rupp in front, so maybe at least a chance for Mark Harris to get up to 11th position. Seabright in 10th. About 2 seconds behind Andrew Banfield. And Banfield is closing into John Dowling in 8th position. Martin Ash in the pits. So hopefully Martin Ash just changing his tires and not being out of the race like Nick Curry, who joined the Formula Masters very, very late. So we got actually an update for his car, so for his skin on the car this evening. So all the trouble just for him to start in the race for a few laps and then being out, and now Martin Ash overtaken by or lapped by Steve Proudly. Unlucky situation after leaving the pits. Martin Ash, after his mandatory pit stop, of course in 15th and 1 lap down. Steve Proudly and Neil McMath in front of him. And we are expecting these two guys in the pits in the next few laps. And I was slightly mistaken. It's Neil McMath and Mark Heyman. I'm sorry. So Steve Proudly already way in front. And now it's Darren Boulton also passing Martin Ash. But no problems here. Martin Ash knows that he has to open the door for the fast guys in the leading pack. And I'm wondering who will be or who will stay out longest with his soft tires. Andrew Banfield in the pits and John Dowling also with a spin in the final chicane. Something we saw from several drivers now. Derek Robb in the pits, Rick Fowler as well, Chris Bourne already did his stop back in 11th. Where's Martin Ash? Oh, still takes some time. Andrew Banfield leaving the pits already. Where's Derek Robb? It's the same here. And Rick Fowler, is he out? No, he's not. He actually had to pit on the other side. So a bit strange on this track. Rick Fowler after his return in this series at Excite Virtual Motorsports, now in 14th ahead of Martin Ash, but behind this man Derek Robb. And he's actually battling one of the leading cars, or the leading car, that's Steve Proudly, who overlapped Derek Robb. Great job by Steve Proudly so far, staying in front. And Mark Heyman is out! Mark Heyman out of the race, and that looks like disconnect, because there was no yellow underlining of his initials on the left leaderboard. So usually if it's yellow, it means the car is there, usually unintentionally parked somewhere or very slow. We didn't see that. Usually this happens right before a driver leaves the server and is out, but it looks like Mark Heyman, who was chasing Neil McMath very, very well most of the time, is now out of the race. As long as he's not returning back, so he can still rejoin the server and start rejoin the race out of the pits, but he will be definitely way behind the rest of the field if he does. Depends on if he wants to collect some points or not. But Neil McMath now in second, a lot safer than before, 3.5 seconds almost ahead of Darren Boulton, just lapped Derek Robb. And who's very, very quick at the moment. So obviously not just the clutch pedal is working very good for Mike Tanti, who's in 6th right now. Shouldn't forget that there are some drivers who that were in the pits already, so maybe Mike Tanti will drop a bit down in the field, but still looking good right now. Matt Powney in the pits. And if you are wondering what about some of the very similar paint jobs on the cars, there are some drivers that more or less teamed up, so they're using almost identical skin. So it looks like they're a team, but there's no team championship. So they maybe are working together, and maybe they are kind of saying we are in a team, but there's no team championship. So I'm not missing that one out. There just isn't. So there are no official team names. Darren Boulton in the pits. Mark Heyman still out, and I don't think he will return on the server now. It's way too late for that. Darren Boulton leaving the pits in 4th, of course, but they're still proudly McMath, Utley. They all have to get into the pits. Mike Tanti is still going. And I think they're on soft tires now, and they will switch to super softs actually. It's a bit tricky with all these tires because sometimes the hard tires might stand longer, but they are so much slower than the softer tires that it doesn't make any sense to use them. It often varies from track to track. Mike Tanti in 4th, he still has to go into the pits, as well as Mark Harris. And there is Seabright with a mistake, and that's a very, very bad situation for him, trying to get back on track and hitting the tire barrier. That must have left some damage to his front wing. Mike Tanti in the pits now. Matt Powney was already in, so he is taking 6th position from Tanti. John Dowling also passing Tanti, Chris Bourne, and there is Seabright in the pits now after his slight mistake. So I think there won't be just changing the tires, there will also be some repairs to his front wing. It actually didn't look like the tires were changed, but that's maybe just a slight issue with animation of the pit stop, because we don't see a crew or something. The car sometimes is just pulled up. We'll change the tires, but we won't see it in much detail here. Steve Proudly still in front of Neil McMath, but he has to be very, very concentrated, because Neil McMath almost driving the same lap times as Steve Proudly. It's still about 2.9, about 3 seconds difference, and it has been like that for now maybe 10 laps. And Neil McMath doesn't have to look back in his mirrors by now, because Mark Heyman is out of the race. Most likely because of some internet problems. Kevin Utley still out. No pit stop. And Andrew Benfield taking 9th position from Mike Tanti, attacking after the long back straight. And Andrew Benfield is now in front of Mike Tanti, taking position number 9. Oh, and you maybe heard the sound. Mark Heyman is with us in the commentary booth. So, Mark,
gutted.
Not. I have to say, not so nice to see you here already. So chasing Neil McMath for 2nd position most of the time, and then suddenly you were out. So Mark, welcome. But what happened? It looked like some internet problems.
I think Steve Proudly interfered with my car from last week. I'm joking. What a nightmare. Yeah, and just before the end of quali, I got kicked out of the server, so I thought I might have had an issue, and there was no time to do anything about it. I think really it's something wrong with the router. Perhaps need to restart it. How very disappointing. I was really enjoying that race and felt really prepared.
Yeah, it looked very great, and especially you were chasing Neil McMath, so Steve Proudly was a bit ahead, but you were looking for a second position. So how was it just like driving and then all of a sudden everything was shut down, so no more cars to see, or you just kicked off the server?
Well, yeah, all the cars disappeared off the track into the wall, and then I realised I'd been disconnected. So yeah, that was it. No warning, just happened. I was quite comfortable sitting there in third with the pit window to come. So never mind. It is what it is. Happened to Steve last week. Nightmare.
Yeah, so no championship points, or just a few championship points for you tonight. Next race, if I'm not mistaken, will be in Sonoma in 2 weeks. So just short question, what are you expecting there? Because I mean, this is a very, very demanding track in the US.
Actually, I don't think that track's been run. I think we're doing a different track that week. I think it's very buggy and it got dropped. Not sure.
Okay, so no final decision which track it will be. So maybe the next one, maybe Tonic Park, or
might be Red Bull Ring.
Red Bull Ring. Okay, so if you're already very sure that's Red Bull Ring, what are your expectations? Because that's a big difference to Sonoma, because you're more like in the slipstream than out of it.
Yeah, well, if it is a Red Bull Ring, that's a great track to race. I think Mark Harris put it on the points scoring from last week. That's round 3, but I'm not entirely sure. We had a few tracks that were chosen to test, but there were a few bugs in some of them, and Sonoma was one of them. So whatever the track is, I'll prepare as best I can, and for sure I will restart my router before racing next time. Because that's very frustrating when that happens.
Yeah, I can believe that. It also happened to me in my also quite long sim racing career, so I can definitely feel with you. So hopefully everything will be fine in the next race. Mark Heyman, thanks for all the information, for being with us, and hopefully good luck in the next race in 2 weeks.
Thanks very much. Catch you next time. Cheers.
Yeah, bye. So, just short information by Mark Heyman. So, it definitely was a disconnect. Something on his router broke down. He lost the internet connection. So, that's what we expected. John Dowling in the pits now. And we had some pit stops during our interview. Steve Proudly, the leader of the race, was in for his service. Darren Booton back in third. Matt Powney in fourth. Gavin Utley had his pit stop and is now in fifth. Andrew Banfield was also in sixth. I'm actually not sure if Mark Harris already did his pit stop in seventh. John Dowling finished it definitely just right now. And then there's Neil McMath still going. Neil McMath, one of the last drivers in the entire field who still has to do his pit stop. And I'm not that sure if this strategy will work out. And he's still staying out, so it looks much like he used the soft tires. Hopefully he didn't forget that he has to pit. He's not thinking like, well, why is everyone pitting? I mean, the tires will make it through the race. Sorry, Neil, it doesn't work that way. You have to go into the pits at least once and change the tires, and maybe put some tires on this car you don't want to, but you have to. 5 laps to go. So I'm not sure what he's waiting for. Maybe using the super softs, so just for 3 or 4 very, very fast laps. Proudly is not closing in. So it's still between 24 and 25 seconds distance. It was about 3 seconds between Proudly and McMath before the pit stop of Steve Proudly. Still Neil McMath staying out. No pit stop this time. Because of that, most of the drivers are actually lapped. So if Neil McMath would be in the pits, drivers like Mike Tanti, who's in 8th, wouldn't be a lap down. Well, slight mistake out of the hairpin, slowest part of the track, and Neil McMath with a mistake in the chicane. Neil McMath, and that's been it for we're talking about the lead in this race. He has to go on the pits now, and he definitely lost a lot of time, so maybe this even would be the second position for Darren Boulton. And that would be the second time Boulton might be in second in the season. And actually that would mean that maybe Boulton will be the leader of the championship after this race. But still 4 laps to go. Now McMath is coming in. McMath in the pits, and that means that's the last driver in the entire field making some tire changes. And now let's take a look at Darren Boulton. Coming on this very tough right-hander up to the final left and right chicane. Over the start-finish line, and Neil McMath still waiting in the pits. Darren Boulton up past him is in second now. Neil McMath underway again, and he will stay ahead of Matt Powney, that's for sure. 8 seconds difference. 7 seconds. That's definitely enough to stay in third for the last few laps. Matt Powney 5 seconds ahead of Gavin Utley. Was more or less safe from Andrew Benfield, just lapping Martin Ash, who's in 13th. Then there's Mark Harris in 7th. Oh, and there's a mistake by Mark Harris. Now that looked very, very strange. Like the rear of the car, the back of the car just snapped to the left side, and while he tried to counter steer, just shooting out of the left-hander in the chicane right into the wall. In reality, this would have hurt a lot, and it would definitely have destroyed the car. Luckily here in Assetto Corsa, the cars are much more forgiving when you are caught in a crash. He's about 5.5 seconds ahead of, well, it's more than 6 seconds now ahead of Mike Tanti, who's actually chased by his, unofficial teammate Derek Robb, and Robb is passing Tanti. Tanti trying to cross the line. No. Robb up in 8th. Mike Tanti down to 9th position. About 8 seconds ahead of Chris Bourne, who is in the top 10, and definitely in the top 10 because Darius Seabright is way behind in 11th. There's Darren Boulton just behind him, lapping him in the next few corners. John Dowling down to 12th. Martin Ash 13th, and Rick Fowler after his return in the championship in 14th. But still going and looking for finishing the race. Steve Proudly in the lead, and there's no doubt it will end up in a victory second to last lap, while John Dowling had a slight mistake, probably in the chicane. Martin Ash still way behind him, so no problem for John Dowling. He will stay in 12th, but of course no way for him to catch Darius Seabright in 11th. But let's watch Steve Proudly on the final lap. He set the fastest time in the qualifying. He was leading the race right from the beginning, and it looks much like it that he will finish this race in first place. Perfect evening for Steve Proudly after his connection troubles in the opening round in Mugello. Now he's looking for a very clean victory here on the Blackwood GP track. That will mean he will get 50 points out of this race. And it's for sure now at this moment, Steve Proudly is the winner of the second round of the Formula Masters by Exide Virtual Motorsports. Darren Booten takes his second podium in a row. Neil McMath in third. And Gavin Utley takes fourth position from Matt Powney in the last few corners. Matt Powney very slow. Oh, he is out of fuel, obviously. Gavin Utley in fourth. Then it's Andrew Banfield in fifth position. And Matt Powney, not much going on with this car anymore. He probably did a slight mistake with refueling his car and stopping just a few hundred meters before the start-finish line. What a disaster for Matt Powney. The car has stopped. Nothing to do for him, and he's in the pits and he's out of the race. So Mark Harris takes 6th position in front of Derek Rupp. Mike Tanti takes 8th. Chris Bourne in 9th. Matt Powney with DNF in 10th, but he will be passed by his unofficial teammate Darius Seabright in 11th. No, he won't, because Powney was in the leading lap and Seabright was lapped already, as well as John Dowling, Martin Ash, and Rick Fowler, who are finishing in 12th, 13th and 14th. Mark Heyman out of the race after his connection issues. We saw this earlier in the race, and Nick Curry, for unknown reasons, parked his car very early in the race. I think it was in lap number 2 or 3, but this is the car of the winner this evening. It's Steve Proudly, and after the disastrous run in Mugello, a perfect race for this man in the all carbon fiber looking car. Now we'll take a short break, and hopefully you will find some of the drivers to give us an interview. It's always a bit trouble to find someone who might want to talk to me for unknown reasons. I don't know. I'm usually not asking very harsh questions. So I hope you will stay with us for another few minutes. We're back in a moment. We are back, and actually two of the drivers from the podium are here with us now in the, I used to say, virtual commentary booth. It's Steve Proudly and Darren Booton. Welcome, and thanks for being here tonight. Darren Booton, I want to start with you because you will be the leader of the championship after this race tonight. So second position in a row. Darren, congratulations. You are having a very, very great season so far. How was the race for you tonight?
To be honest, I was on my own for a lot. I had a bit of a shaky start, dropped a few places in the first couple of corners, had a bit of contact, and then I just weaved through the contact at the end of the straight, I think, and just survived.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I spent a lot of time on my own.
Yeah, so it
Very
was
quiet race.
Yeah, how hard, how tough was it to keep concentrated while everyone else was racing somewhere around you and you just concentrating on the track?
Yeah, just trying to keep my eyes forward. When I swapped onto the medium tyres, really can't get any heat into them at all, so it's like being on ice most of the time, but I think that's the same for everybody.
Yeah, it looked like some of the drivers had a lot of trouble with the tires. We saw a lot of spinning, so you were one of the few probably who didn't spun out, and that was one of the reasons I think that brought you up to second position. Of course, the disconnect of Mark Heyman, also a reason for getting another position in this race. So now with 2 second places in a row and probably the lead in the championship. Next race, I got the information by Mark Heyman, will not be Sonoma, but it will be the Red Bull Ring. So what are your expectations?
Red Bull Ring, I've never been very good on there, so I have no idea. Plenty of practice, I think, is needed.
Yeah, it will be a lot about the slipstream and outbraking your opponent in the very sharp turns. It all are right turns, I think, after the long straights.
Yeah.
So maybe just thinking about surviving again and maybe taking another podium.
Hopefully that's what I'll be aiming for, and hopefully it'll all just pan out.
Okay, so hopefully it will work out in the next race as it did in the last two so far. Darren Booton, then congratulations again. Your second place
Thank you very much.
Here on Blackwood GP, and thank you for the interview. And of course, with us, Steve Proudly, the winner of this race. Steve, yeah, you had connection issues in the first round in Mugello, which cost you the entire race. This time, pole, and yeah, from the start, you led the race, and there was not much of a doubt after a few laps that this won't change anymore because yeah, Mark Heyman and Neil McMath, they were battling for some time. Then Heyman had that kind of trouble you had 2 weeks ago, and in the end you won the race about 6.5 seconds in front of Darren Booton. Congratulations. But Steve, I think it was a tough job to keep concentrated there in front without fighting against anyone.
Way to make it up for last week, for the last round. But yeah, I prefer to be on my own, to be honest, Seb. I like to just put hot laps in, and that's where I can focus best. It's always a distraction when you're being challenged, but unlucky for Neil because I think he, it would have been very, very close after the second pit stop had he not had that crash. I was watching the deltas and I was sort of just keeping a roughly 23, 24 seconds when I'd come out of the pits in second. So I think when he'd have pitted, we'd have been very close on the track and probably could have had a good battle for the last few laps.
Yeah, he spun out in the chicane just 1 lap before he wanted to make his pit stop, so that cost him not just the chase to the lead against you, it also cost him the second position, so he finally finished in third. Now 50 points for you, Steve, so you will climb up in the championship at least a bit now. Maybe close to Mark Heyman, who will take some small points after his disconnect tonight. Steve, looking forward for the Red Bull Ring. What are your expectations?
Yeah, I think, there's some very fast guys in this group. Mark's one of them. Absolutely gutted for Mark and his disconnect. I know how he feels, and it's not very nice when you put the practice in and the effort, and through no fault of your own, you just, you're disconnected. But Red Bull Ring, I think, like you say, it'll be a fast track, slipstreaming. The first corner and the last corner will be crucial to get right. But it's all about consistency, as Darren's proving. Just keep finishing as high as you can, and the points will look after themselves. So yeah, just hopefully maybe on the podium, but there's a lot of fast guys in here, so I don't expect it. I'll just do the best I can.
Yeah, the best you can will mean another pole and another victory. I think so be it, but of course that we will see that on the Red Bull Ring in 2 weeks. So Steve Proudly, I will leave you to it with enjoying this victory. Will there be some maybe there already is an open beer bottle for celebrating, or just like taking a shower and going to bed?
Now maybe I'll go get a beer now I've finished the race. It's a bit of a warm job. Could do with a cool down.
I believe you. Okay, so then congratulations again, and thank you for the interview.
Thank you.
And that's it for tonight for the Formula Masters by Exile Virtual Motorsports. This was round number 2 from the Blackwood GP, and the next race will take place on the Red Bull Ring and not Sonoma. There's still not the updated version of the calendar, so thankfully I got the information. 17th of November, then we will be racing again Friday evening. Formula Masters by Exile Virtual Motorsports. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the race, and see you and goodbye.